So on one hand, we have the ultimate Windows 98 machine. Therefore, this implies the existence of a practical Windows 98 machine. At least for me it does, and this machine was a total accident. And why that is because I originally intended to build another machine like this to be a Windows 98 machine, and unfortunately, while that machine does have Windows 98 drivers, the party trick that it employs does not work in Windows 98. So it became yet another XP machine, and I already have XP covered in droves at this point. So I wanted to do something with Windows 98 that was small, practical, easy to load up into my room here, because as we get into the winter months, the garage kind of becomes untenable for doing anything at night, and I'm one of those weird people who is mostly awake during the night and I sleep during the day, so I can't just go out to the garage and get a setup going, at least during the winter months, because it is freezing out there. So I wanted a machine I could bring into my room and play around on it with Windows 98. Because, and while I'm not above dragging the ultimate Windows 98 machine in here, it's kind of a pain in the ass if I want to, say, swap it out with the XP machine, the practical XP machine that I have, not the XPS 730, which is a lot, and I'm starting to kind of have my regrets with that machine because of just how unwieldy it can be, but I still like it one way or another. In one way, I'm going to bring it to a VCF, but probably not this here. Anyway, this is a Shuttle SB61G2, and this is part of a lot of shuttles that I got, because when I was kind of wheeling and dealing to get what I thought was going to be the small and practical Windows 98 machine, I didn't think that deal was going to go through, so I put out feelers, and somebody said, "Oh, I've got like 3 shuttles sitting in my garage. Do you want them? You know, they're yours, just do something with them." So this is one of them. This is arguably the best one of the 3. The other 2 are roughly in the same era, but a little worse off. One of them is a parts unit because it's missing a bunch of parts, but I did manage to rebuild it, so it does, I guess, work. It just needs a power supply. And the other one is going to a good friend of mine because he wants one of these machines in this era. So this one is mine, and it is the practical Windows 98 machine, as I've already said. Now we're going to look at the back, because the front kind of houses a little fun thing I've done for this machine. So let's turn around and have a look. This is the back of the machine. We have our power supply, which this model lacks a fan, so unfortunately, power supply does run a bit warm, but it seems to be okay. I mean, it's survived this long. And spoiler alert, I'm very shocked to find that despite this being a Pentium 4 era system, all of the capacitors in it are good, whereas the capacitors in my SS30G2, which is a early LGA 775 system, had all gone bad. So interesting luck of the draw here, or maybe someone recapped it at some point, I don't know. But we have a serial port, a VGA port that we are completely ignoring on this system. We have a Firewire 400 port here, a full one at that. Usually we get the 4-pin, but we do have a 4-pin on the front, but we'll get to that later. Here we have 4 USB ports, which quite nice considering the other shuttles that I have 2 USB 2.0 ports on the back. I mean, it's okay because you've got 2 more on the front, but considering the devices I like to plug in here, 2 is kind of pushing it a little bit. We have PS2 mouse and keyboard here. There's a parallel cutout up here if you have the option for it. I don't on this one. And as UXW Bill would say, that makes this closer to being a real computer. We have onboard audio, which, according to people who know what they're doing, is passable at best, so I've completely ignored it and put a Sound Blaster Live value in here. The video card is quite advanced, as we can see. This is a GeForce 6600 GT that was lovingly donated to me by Tech Ambrosia a couple years ago, actually, for one of the incarnations of the Ultimate Windows 98 machine, and I'm kind of channeling Draga and saying that here, but yeah, it was the Tualatin build that was meant to go into, but I eventually went to another card for some odd reason, I can't remember. I believe it was the Radeon 9700, simply because the drivers for this card were a little bit unstable in that system, but here they seem to be okay-ish. So this card is kind of stretching the limits of 98 support because it is very much a Windows XP card, but it gets the job done here despite it all. So let's look at the front and you'll see what I've done to this system. Oh my god, it's pink. Well, this filament was supposed to be glass purple, but it kind of came out looking closer to pink, but I don't really care. Do you? I don't. So this had nothing wrong with it. The stock front panel was here, but it was just a boring silver metal front panel, and I wanted to do something fun with this. And initially the plan was to put a translucent blue front panel on here because blue is my favorite color, and unfortunately that front panel is completely incompatible with this motherboard and this chassis because it has a full Firewire 400 port on the front of it. This motherboard does not have a connect for that, and it only has the connect for the 2 USB ports and not the audio, which the audio, again, we can completely ignore because it is not connected to the Sound Blaster, so these ports really don't do much of anything right now. But I wanted it all working just because, and that front panel was not meant to go with this motherboard. So I had to get the stock front panel and put it back, and well, it was boring. So I went into Tinkercad and I was like, I can make something better and print it out of some filament to give this thing a little flair of personality, and that's exactly what I did. I had inland glass PLA loaded up because I've been printing some merchandise to hand out at VCF events next year because I am probably going to SoCal. I'm not going to say I am going to SoCal because, well, I've paid for my registration and everything. That just would invite the universe to drop a piano on me, but I do hope to make everything this next year, barring anything bad happening. So I want to have some merch to hand out there, and I have some keychains printed in this purple to hand out to people at VCF. Since I had that filament loaded, I figured why not make the front panel out of it because it looks weird and fun. I have uploaded the files to printables. I'll leave a link down in the description if you want to do this yourself. If you have a Shuttle that has this very same front panel. Because it's translucent though, I did omit the cutouts for the power and hard drive LEDs, but I did make a version that has the cutouts intact if you want them there. We also have the reset and power buttons, and everything seems to work perfectly fine. All the ports have enough clearance, everything works. Things might be a little off center here and there, but at least from my eyes here, it's good enough for government work. For our drives, we have our optical drive, which is a era appropriate light scribe drive, and we have a floppy drive. So that all said, let's open the system up and have a look inside, shall we? And there is a 6600 GT front and center, and looking pretty good. The fan is being a little problematic, but I think for now it'll be okay. I did pull it out and re-lube it, but I think it's just kind of on the way out and nothing's really going to save it at this point. So I think this is a pretty standard fan size. I should be able to find something that'll fit in there, but that's for future me to deal with. For right now, it works okay. We have an AGP slot, which is quite nice in one of these systems because that opens up quite a lot of options for Windows 98 stuff. This is running a Intel 865 chipset, I believe, with a 3 GHz Prescott Pentium 4 in the socket 478 form factor. And you might think Prescott's a bit much for this system, but shockingly, it works pretty well, all things considered. Now, I would like to put a 3.2 or a 3.4 gigahertz Northwood in here at some point, but that's kind of way off. For right now, it works perfectly fine as is. We have native onboard SATA, which is quite nice, and appropriately, I do have a 128 gig SSD in here serving as the boot drive because Windows 98 just works with it for the most part, and once the drivers are installed and DMA is turned on, it is pretty speedy. So very happy with how this system has turned out, and we can flip it over real quick to see that there's our power supply. And this board, despite being kind of bespoke, I do believe this is a standard of some sort. I believe it's called Flex ITX or Flex ATX. I could be wrong. Editing Zodium will cut in here with something. It's standard ATX for the connectors, at least. I have powered these boards off of standard ATX power supplies, and they work perfectly fine. So very nice for testing stuff out without these power supplies. Now, I have cracked some of these open to check out the capacitors inside, and they seem to be perfectly okay. So Shuttle, at least during this era, seemed to have good choices for their capacitors, because yeah, I'm looking kind of down there at them and none of them are bulged. They all look perfectly fine. Hey there, Future Exodium here. Yeah, I said all this before I had acquired this little thing here that you may have seen in the previous video. This, unfortunately, had blown caps all over the place and I had to deal with those, and also in the power supply, but to be fair to Shuttle in this case, the power supply was made by Elan Power and not Shuttle, at least, assuming that Elan Power is not just who built Shuttle's previous power supplies, just actually using their name this time instead of letting them be branded as Shuttle Power Supplies. But yeah, that streak got broken by this poor thing and currently working on reviving it, so yeah, jinxed myself. Oops. Here's our floppy header, by the way. And yep, that is all connected up through the top here, as we can see. Just enough of an air pocket for it to move some air. Pretty well built compared to some of the other small form factor systems I've messed with at the time. So let's get the cover back on and start this puppy up. One of these days I'll get my Keptra set up properly calibrated for use in actual video production, but for now we're going to just do it the classic way and aim the camera at the screen. So let's go ahead and get that turned on so we get power to the USB hub, and our good old friend the banana slug is here to watch us. So by clever use of my feet, I'm going to hit the power button and everything is kicking in. Good old floppy seek. Oh my god, it's purple. So, of course, yay, I have mouse. Okay, so yeah, this is Windows 98, and I really need to start reconfiguring this because this is probably going to be one of the machines. It does go to VCF. Maybe it's going to go to VCF SoCal. I haven't decided yet, but let's go ahead and maybe start some games. Now, to start off with, I do have GTA 3 on here, and it actually works. But to start off, I'm going to go ahead and run 3D Mark 2001. That's kind of the standard fare here, and I'm pretty sure you all have seen this hundreds of times, so we're just going to skip to the good part. And there we go. I can't remember off the top of my head what the ultimate Windows 98 machine scores, but I want to say it's about right in line with this. And my 2010 polycarbonate MacBook actually scores about 20,000, but I really owe that to CPU improvements more so than anything, so not a bad showing for a pretty small system, if we're honest. And that was with the settings, by the way. So let's play some games real quick, shall we? Because I did an earlier take of this video where I didn't have any games on here, but since then I've installed a bunch of stuff and now there is something to actually play on here. So let's go ahead and do some Unreal Tournament. Oh, I haven't even updated this. Interesting. So yeah, if you have an unupdated copy of Unreal Tournament Game of the Year Edition, you actually get it right here. Pretty neat. So we're running this in 1024 by 768 with OpenGL. Now, OpenGL is kind of weird, but for this system, it's unfortunately kind of required because the NVIDIA drivers do not like Direct 3D, at least with this particular game. We can turn this up. We have way too much power to spare here. So let's go ahead and play. Actually, I'm going to go to my player setup and I'm going to spectate because I don't feel like playing the game at this current moment. And we are going to select a different map. Those who know why we don't do the default map here. And we'll shake it up a little bit and go with Phase 2. I'll leave it at 4 bots, why not? Unfortunately, the stat FPS command on UT99 doesn't really work the greatest. I can go ahead and issue it now. And it doesn't really tell us an FPS count here, so yeah, you'll just have to take it at my word. This is running at pretty clean 60 FPS. And look, usually I'm the one who does the scoring, but looks like the bots are going to do it for me. pretty neat. Kill me all you want, it's not going to uncap that flag. But as usual, it runs pretty well. I mean, it's a GT 6600. It's gonna be good. So, you have other games on here. Unreal, of course, the game that started it all. The iconic Castle Flyover. Weirdly enough, I played Unreal Tournament before the regular Unreal. I saw a copy of it at half-price books and was very intrigued, so I picked it up for pretty cheap and was blown away by this. I was like, holy crap, this is cool. The music's great, too. So, played it on a Power Mac 9500 back in the day. It was pretty fun. It's also why this game is kind of a mainstay on my VCF tables, because it's got some history with me. I like this particular part because there is a fight up here that on lesser systems tends to cause some issues, and by issues I mean frame drops. For a good example, my Power Mac 9600 would just start dropping frames the minute this guy comes out of here. Rip that guy. But the explosion effects would cause all sorts of frame drops, and yeah, not fun. Yeah, perfectly fine. I mean, of course, this is a Windows 98 God box. It's going to be fine. Let's play some GTA 3. Now, I kind of have something a little set up here. So I have GTA in the virtual drive. Because unlike my Ultimate Windows 98 machine, I decided to kind of roll the dice a little bit and run daemon tools on here because, well, I can't put a blue SCSI in here. I mean, I could, but it's going to be unwieldy, and who knows, maybe I might decide when it releases to put a Pico IDE in here. That'd be kind of cool, but that's not high on the priority list. But yeah, let's play some GTA 3, and if you want to install GTA 3 on a system like this, but you don't want to use a actual disk for it, go download the 1.1 patch, because the original version of the game has safe disk DRM, which means no matter how much you try, you mount the ISO or you burn a disk, it's going to stop you and it's going to get very angry. So yeah, let's go ahead and start it up. And I'm going to load a specific file here that I think might be fun. I'm not going to get in a car because getting in a car would be bad due to licensed music. As you can see, it runs pretty well. Running at 640 by 480. And it still looks a lot better than it did on the PS2, that's for sure. Now, I don't know if the thing that I've done is in effect yet, or if I need to redo it, but yep. It is in effect. I'm gonna get out of here. Okay, so the full effect of what I wanted to do is not here yet, but we're gonna fix that very quickly here. Quick jump cut. Okay, I've got the thing. So, you just type the cheat codes in, and there we go. There we go, full chaos. That just gave pedestrians weapons. They are currently rioting. As we can see, There's sadly nowhere I can really run, and that guy looked like he had a rocket launcher. Yeah, the game runs pretty fine for what it is. Go ahead and quit because I don't want to get too distracted here. But yeah, that's really it for this particular system. I can, do the obligatory run and DX diag. And there's everything. Pentium 4, 3 gigahertz Prescott, DirectX 9.0C. And there's our 6600 GT with good old 128, well, 122 it says here, megabytes of VRAM. So yeah, that's really it for the video. Thank you for sitting along and watching, and feel free to leave a comment, feel free to subscribe if you're not subscribed, and till next time, I will see you guys later.